Although, look, wherever the laptop's coming, that's a pretty good view.
It's not like anybody's watching us yet live anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
What's going on, YouTube? Brian Hilson here, the Metal Dad, aka the Dog. Here as always, my buddy Chris.
Otherwise known as Turbo.
Turbo.
Those who know, Squash Mouth to other ones, but we're going with Turbo these days.
Turbo these days. I'm gonna have to remember the nicknames here. I got my nicknames. I got to remember yours. If you're gonna be throwing Turbo down, I'm gonna have to remember to call you Turbo. So I'm gonna repeat it all the time.
Turbo or Squash.
Squash buckle.
Squash Mouth. Squash.
Squash Mouth.
Yeah. That one's kind of a derogatory term, but I don't know.
Are we gonna get banned for that?
No, they used just the voice. It was lipping me, right? An old blues nickname, saying I had a big mouth. That's another way of saying big mouth.
Oh, big mouth, eh?
Well, I could have called one, Snaggletooth Alky and, fucking Little Dick syndrome or whatever, but.
Little Dick. Well, I think we got to. Well, I put on the live that we're not for children, so I guess we could get away with some stuff. And if we get, it's not like we have to worry about being monetized or anything yet, anyway. Because I don't think anybody's watching. This is our first YouTube show.
And judging by the things we say, even if we didn't swear, I don't think we'd be monetized anyways.
But as long as we say things that they're allowing the big YouTubers to say now, we should be allowed to do it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Well, they're starting to say more and more.
Well,
and there's some funny things going on.
How do you not say more and more, right?
Well, they have to, right? And they have to, but it's all slow drip, so we just got to kind of.
That's right. That's right.
So I hear you were out meeting some new people today, or meeting some truther people today. You want to tell us about some of these people, or?
Well, just people getting together, voicing our concerns together, so we're just not alone, and and just kind of talking about the ways of the world and different things. And some of them is, just different people having some of these things they say with the kids, like, talking about vaccines, whatnot, and how, now a 12-year-old doesn't need consent, or if any child, I think, and I'd have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure any kids over 5, if you're in school, they consider that consent, right? So
just if you're in school. So it is coming to the point where they're going to lock the kids in the school and just force vaccinate them.
Well, if you're present in school, basically the idea is if you send your kid to school, you have consented to vaccination, is what they're saying. Yeah.
How do they find that one to be legal?
Well, nothing's if under the umbrella of an emergency mandate, you can circumvent the law, right?
Can you really, though? I've been thinking about it a lot. Can you really do that, or is that just a little trick that they're using on us?
I think if people don't say no, that's half of it right there, right? If you don't say no, you don't stand up for yourself, then that's one of the things.
A lot of people are doing that.
Yeah, and there's that they're using monetary threats to, right? That's how they're getting businesses to comply, right?
Yeah.
Threatening with fines and all this kind of nonsense, and people are calling and ratting things out and all that business.
Well, what I heard today, or what I saw, a little thing on Facebook, I think it was, or wherever it was, I'm not sure, but apparently the Liberals and the NDP have okayed mandatory lockdowns for unvaccinated people, and if they're caught outside, it's $2,500 fine and then eventually jail time.
That's insanity. So we'll have to confirm that, because that's cutting right into
that's
everything.
Austria and Australia and now Germany, like that. And I can say that that's a Germany thing because CNN's reporting on it. Mm-hmm. Angela Merkel has announced it, and Tim Pool was reporting on it from CNN. So there's legit. That's not only CNN reporting on it, but then there's YouTube's fucking top reporting on it, right?
Jeez, that is insanity.
So
that's insanity.
It's coming all over the place, and what are we going to do? But on the other side, too, I also may have seen that Trudeau might have been on Epstein's plane.
Oh, I wouldn't believe it. I would not
Doubt it.
I wouldn't doubt it. Yes, what I meant to say.
Now, I'm not 100% sure, but we got the Maxwell trial going on. So
Yeah, that's true.
eventually we're going to have to start getting like screens and stuff to pop up so we can show people, so we can fact check ourselves, and people are be like, well, no, you guys are
Yeah. Well, then you can on the one hand, but then on the other hand is
screen record our phone.
You know, I used to be really nice at it. A few people kind of reach out. They didn't like some of the things I'd posted on a Facebook, and you know what it was they didn't like?
What?
I would show like, oh, there was a protest in Austria. There's a protest in Australia. There's a protest in Croatia, and people saying, oh, what do? You know, you should check your sources, and you know, this is all racist, right-wing gatherings. You know, and if you think that the protests in Australia are racist, right-wing gatherings, you're fucking insane. You're insane. You're or unaware completely, and mostly that's what it is. They're completely unaware. They don't know who's there. They don't know what it's about. They're just, it's foolish.
That scene from Billy Madison comes to my mind. You know,
Oh,
the
yes.
one where, remember, you know, the one where I'm talking about?
No.
The one where they were having the academic decathlon.
Okay, yeah.
And the announcer, or not the announcer, the master of ceremonies or whatever he was, I think he was the principal of the school or whatever, and he just looked over at Billy Madison and goes, that is the most idiotic thing I have ever heard, and everybody in the room is now dumber for having heard that. And I may be paraphrasing a little bit, but that's that statement right there. Just that's what I feel like.
Well, and that's it, right? I mean, you just can't. You can't ignore it, but they don't want to know they'll if it's on the news then it must be real, and you know, brought to you by Pfizer.
Yeah, apparently so.
And a few folks and one guy, you know, messaged me saying, oh, well, you know, you got to check your sources, I expect more. Well, here's the thing, I am not there to be fact checked. If I put something on Facebook and you think it's a lie, you disagree with it, that's your problem. It's not my job to go through and make sure you're aware of everything that's going on in the world. Although, some could argue that it's you do because these fools are being fooled, and you almost you have a responsibility to, you know, if you see a fire, you kind of have to yell fire.
Yeah,
right.
It's
you know,
it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, but on the other hand, you know, if you don't know and you can't tell that there's a fire, you know, it's the whole frog in boiling water, and you don't see anything's wrong, then no amount of explaining or evidence may necessarily convince them either.
I ran into something like that. I actually had a 3-hour conversation with a buddy of mine.
Okay.
After another friend of mine got a hold of me on Facebook trying to convince me that it was my duty to take the vaccine.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't understand that. My duty? What do you mean my duty? It's not, there's no duty involved in that. Then he tried to say that people that don't take the vaccine are cowards.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And anytime he said anything, or anytime I said anything, his only response was always, it's what you have to do because it's what the community has to do. We have to do this all together. And I could hear he even at one point said communism is the way to go. And I'm like, dude, man, like, and I don't want to drop names, and I almost dropped a whole bunch of other information that I probably shouldn't drop either, because he's involved in some things that not illegal, but let's just say on the secret side of the world.
Sure.
We'll go with that. And I have all the time and all the respect for that, you know, whatever you want to do. And it's not my cup of tea, because anything, let me put it this way. Anything that calls himself a secret and doesn't let women into it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not involved, because you're cutting out half of the equation of creation and half of life.
Yep. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the fact that you're keeping the secrets because you think that you have to keep the secrets is just, no. Sorry. Tell me the secrets. It's time for the world to know the secrets. Let's get them out there.
Yeah.
But this guy is a good friend of mine. It's a smart guy. Neuroscientist, basically.
Sure.
Like, he's still going through. I don't know what he's getting. He's going for his PhD in something. I don't really know. But all he kept doing was throwing his education in my face.
Yeah.
Well, I'm educated. Yeah, okay. But I'm educated. I get that. I was there for your education. And he's just like, Well, what do you mean? I was just like, who are you talking to the whole time you were going through your schooling, bouncing all of the important information off of? Well, you. Exactly. So just because you went to school and memorized more actual facts than I did doesn't make me less smart than you because you were talking to me and I understood every word that you said.
Well, if someone is a professor in ethics, that doesn't give them the moral high ground to decide my ethics
Exactly.
or the assumption that I can't think for myself and choose my own ethics. Sorry, if you studied moral ethics, you should realize that's unethical.
Yeah.
It's just no.
The more I see communism seeping in, the more I feel like it's the Borg.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what it feels like. Like talking, especially the people in Nova Scotia, it's the worst. Nova Scotia is where it's the worst. They're completely brainwashed over there. Like
Not
one hundred
everybody, but
percent.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I got a couple friends in Nova Scotia that aren't too, but like the ones that are, like they're completely indoctrinated. Like completely. Like it's their right and their civic duty to get the vaccine.
Yeah. Forever.
Oh yeah. Forever.
Forever.
And that's the whole thing on the Tim Pool thing I was watching earlier with
Yeah.
about Germany. They were explaining how there's no end to the vaccines, so there's no
Right.
way to or I can't remember how they put it, and I'm having a brain fart right now. But there's no way for them to stop it, or there's no need for them to stop it, and it's just like an indefinite cycle that they have looped into whatever clause or loophole that they have going.
Sure. It's a lease on health.
Yeah.
The minute you stop paying your lease, you're off the gravy train. And sorry, the human body doesn't work that way. I'm not going to do it.
No, you can't. Especially the fact that the antibodies you get from actually coming in contact with the actual virus itself and then not having the vaccine are way better.
Yeah.
Right. And that's proven now. That's like we can talk about that and not get kicked off of anywhere because it's a fact.
Well, and there's doctors getting laid off from this and nurses. And, if it was one or two.
My doctor had his license revoked for a month.
Really?
For the month of December.
Just for 1 month?
Yeah.
Hoping he'll change his mind.
Yeah. Oddly enough, only up until January, though. It's almost like during the winter solstice, something's going to happen.
Well,
that's what I'm hoping.
Hopefully a perfect storm of common sense.
Maybe a resurrection or two.
Yeah. Hey, never know. In whatever form.
That'd be cool.
Jeez,
having somebody come back from somewhere, you thought was gone, or even just aliens. That'd be cool.
Yeah, or even common sense.
Common sense would be a good
or
start.
Not even common sense, justice.
I know I was reaching for the stars.
Hey, maybe,
Well, justice would be cool. We got a pedophile on trial.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's that. And who knows what's going to happen after that? The funny thing is about that trial, the weird thing is that none of the people involved that have named any of the high-profile people are involved in that case.
What do you mean exactly?
The witnesses, I think there's 4 of them. Okay. There's 4 girls that are the witnesses for this trial that's going on now.
Right.
Now there's other women, at least 2 other ones that have named one of them named Prince Andrew. And then the other one, I don't know who she named, but it was Ghislaine or whatever.
Yeah.
But they were on the documentary that was on Netflix.
Okay.
But they're not involved in the trial.
Ah.
So it's a wonder what names are going to come out now, if any, or what's the deal here, because there's so many things that she could be tried for, and there's only 6 charges, I think, right now.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird because, it does involve a lot of high-profile things, but on the other hand, it also kind of
involves everything.
Yeah, but it also stinks of distraction.
It is
right.
There's a little bit of distraction, but we're being distracted from it as well.
Yeah, that too. That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
With Omicron.
Yeah, which is crazy. Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing's I don't know. So tonight, I was chatting with some folks, and most so, it's easy to get caught in doom and gloom, but it's also about knowing your rights and knowing where to stand and saying enough is enough, and knowing what to do and choosing your own path. And there's going to be a lot more folks choosing a different path.
Well, especially with the boosters coming down and people going, okay,
Yeah.
what's the deal now?
Yeah.
Or at least that's what you would hope anyway. The
A
more
lot of folks who gave in said, okay, I'll get my pass. But then, and hard to say, I'm wrong, but a lot of folks who said, nope, I'm drawing my line in the sand. I'm getting these two, no to the booster, who are probably going to go, well, that's okay. I'll one more booster and that's it. But once you cross the line, man, it's a slippery slope.
it's very easy once you get the first one to say, I'm going to get the next one and the next one and the next one.
That's just it.
And then
That's
people
just
like
it.
us just got to wait for them to come knocking on our door if they do.
Yeah.
Like, because they're already doing that in Australia.
Yeah, I've seen a few pieces. There was a new interview came out. There was a young lady who was quarantined, tested negative.
Mm-hmm.
They quarantined her anyways. And yeah, and some of the footage she shared of just the guards. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see it, but I saw something about it. Somebody had taken some footage.
Well, imagine
and
you're
stuff.
stuck in a room the size of this stage, if not smaller,
Mhm.
and you get a little porch, and you can't get off the porch. So you can go do your laundry with a mask on. That's it. And they bring your meals to you. You can't cook for yourself. You can't do anything. And I'm sorry, but I cook for myself. I don't go to restaurants. I don't eat garbage.
Yeah, I don't trust anything.
Who the fuck? And they said, she was getting anxious, and they'd say, "Yeah, they'll bring you as much Valium as you want. Calm me
Really?
down. Yep, we'll feed you Valium all you want.
So
But you can't go for a walk. You can't go for a jog.
can't do nothing.
No.
Just sit there with Valium.
Yeah.
Why? Do we have reasons for it?
Well, yeah, because if you're all stoned on Valium, you're not going to fucking do anything, are you?
Well, okay.
Passive as shit, right?
I don't think I was talking about the Valium.
Mm.
I'm trying to figure out what their reasoning is after all this time with
And
nothing happening
well,
for them to do this.
I was gonna say I don't know, but we'll get to that in a second. But if you're in a jail, because it's a jail, you can call it a quarantine camp all you want. This is a fucking fancy name. It's a jail. If you put me in a room or a place and I can't go,
There's
I
a
can't
fence
leave,
around
it's
it.
a jail.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's a jail. And there's no two ways about it. And that's why they call them quarantine camps or whatever. If you're not, let alone if I get sick, I'll stay the fuck home. Or, that's it. And if you're not sick, you got to go in this camp? What logic is that? If you're sick, I'm going to put you in a camp with sick people. If you're not sick.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense.
They just grab people that they think might have been in contact
So you can't skirt around the issue. It's a jail. It's a jail. It's a concentration camp is just a big jail. And instead of open cells, they put you in a camp. But in this case, it's more cells. So it's a jail. It's a jail.
Sounds like a jail.
About it. Yeah. It's a jail where they make you do your own laundry. That's about it. And if you don't comply, they can keep you in that jail forever, right? Because say if you say, well, no, I'm going to go for a walk, well, we're going to fine you $5,000 or I'm not paying it. Well, then you're staying in here. Where are you going to go? They're going to keep you there, right? Or they're going to send you to another jail, old school jail. I mean, it's just jail. So if the police or some health officer I'm healthy and can show up and throw me in jail for not taking a needle, wake the fuck up, right? Like, you can't sugarcoat that, right? I mean, it's that simple.
There's nothing else around that.
And you'll have all these people saying, well, no, it's all for our protection. Fuck off. It's not. No.
It can't be for
and
protection.
Those people, they're coming for you. The minute you stop taking it, or who knows. And not only that, then you get into the thing of like a social credit type system. Oh, so you're taking you're Mr. Behaved and you're taking all your endless shots and you're on booster number 9. Instead of every year, it's 6 months. Now maybe it's going to be 3 months. Is it going to be 1 month? So maybe you're on your 9th booster or your 4th booster. It doesn't matter. But what if you're on your 9th booster and then all of a sudden you say, you know what? I'm not taking any more. I'm going to get out in the streets. I'm going to protest. I'm going to put up. I'm going to hand out things. I'm an anti-vaxxer now. What's going to be, who knows? Even before you, if you're still taking the shots, you could say, you know what? I'm going to take these shots, but I'm going to get out and protest. Well, who's to say you get a bad shot one day? Oh, died of a heart attack. Must have been COVID.
What if the scarier reality
It
is?
sounds scary, but it's not.
Well, hold on. What I meant to say was, what if the scarier theory is actually the reality, where there actually is nanoparticles that are being assembled inside of your body with a kill switch?
Who knows, right?
Like, I'm not saying that that's true.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But anything is possible in this fucking reality, and they've already shown us that they're working on it in the movies.
Yeah.
Because in order for them to do whatever they're doing, they have to tell us what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to tell us what they're doing is to hide it in a movie like it's fiction.
Yeah, it's true. Well, mind you,
These are crafty fucking people, man.
Social credit system is on the Canadian website, and it's coming. So that's around the corner. 2 weeks turns into 2 years. Social credit system, it's coming. So once that's in, you say something you don't like. Oh, off to the camp you go. Oh, must have had a contact. Oh, knew somebody who had COVID. Oh, yeah, did you? What are you going to do? Go to a court of law and ask them to prove it? They don't have to prove it. Right? It's a keystroke away. So it's a way to get rid of dissidents. It's a way to get passive, And then once you're in there, what's in your food? You don't know.
No.
And you can say,
we don't know what's in our food
it's
now.
all conspiracy. Yeah, exactly. So
unless you shoot it from the woods,
yeah,
there's no way for you to know what's in your food.
that's right. So,
and that's the scary thing.
yeah.
That's the scary thing nowadays.
Yep. People can start getting dosed at the grocery store. Yeah.
They're already getting dosed. Think about it.
Yeah.
Think about how much garbage is actually in the grocery store.
Oh, it's fake food. That's half of it.
All of it is
filler, and yeah.
Except for the stuff around the aisle, around the edges.
Yeah.
And
Well, even that, half of that's GMO
Yeah.
bullshit, right?
yeah, the only thing that works.
She's warm. She's warm, and I
Well,
love it. I love it. No,
I
that's
had the
good.
fire going this time.
I don't. Yeah, I don't need 10 layers here. I'll loosen up. Maybe I'm just getting fired up.
Fired
But,
up.
my patience for this stuff is getting thinner and thinner, because people are just passively walking away to their
And they're letting it happen.
yeah. And then that's the trick, right? Is if you follow the orders, you're the good one. You're obeying. You're
Good dog.
the good dog. Yeah, good dog.
Good
puppy.
boy. Good
Yeah.
girl.
Until you're not.
Yeah.
Until you're not.
And then what? Then what do you got?
Yeah, that's it, right? So yeah. So no, you get together with folks and you hit them where it hurts in their pocketbook. You don't have to. You don't have to play. You don't have to shop at their stores, and there's that sort of thing. So hey, we've all got our own ways of fighting back, and yeah, but it's scary what's going on with the kids, and yeah, it's funny because there's so much rumor and innuendo. But the thing is, what do you expect when you cannot rely on the news? It's not a reliable source of information, so you have to go to alternate sources, whether they're, and it's a big world, it's a big country, so we're stuck with the internet, and but phone calls and talking to people. It's amazing what happens when you do talk to people too, right? Even these hardcore zealots who think, oh, the vaccines are going to save us and all this. When you actually talk to the folks individually, they're not as confident as they like to seem like they are on the internet. But there it is. You see that two-facedness, that idea that, oh, well, yes, I'm a good citizen and we're all sticking together and we're all going to do it. But, yeah, but I saw you walking with your buddy in the woods. Oh, yeah, you guys didn't have masks on. Oh, well, we're both vaccinated. So, so it's okay when you two are out in the woods. But yeah, you didn't put that on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the thing that gets me the most, and this is what I always say to people whenever they bring it up.
Yeah.
You have to get it so that I'm protected, but you have the vaccine. Yeah. So that means you're protected, right? Well, yeah. So no matter what I do, it doesn't affect you, and whatever you do, it doesn't affect me, right? Well, yeah.
Oh, but you're going to overwhelm the hospital system.
With what?
Exactly.
The hospitals haven't been overwhelmed.
Yeah. They will be when all these doctors start leaving and getting sick. But by then it'll be too late.
Or by the time the third or fourth vaccine kicks in and everybody's immune system has been weakened to the point where anything's going to come in and kill them all.
Yeah. Well, there's the threat there, right?
And
I think
apparently
that's
there's
the
an,
danger of the unvaxxed and we are dangerous because we're not getting sick. We're not dying of COVID. So we
Mhm.
expose that
We're
it's
not going to
bullshit.
get tested. We're not dying of COVID. And this is what I tell everybody that's like, it's all the unvaccinated. Well, it's not. You know why? Well, why? Because we're not getting tested. And they're like, uh, I'd be like, yeah, most people that are unvaccinated
Yeah.
don't believe in this to the point where it's like, no, I'm not even going to get tested. I'm not going to do anything. And you're never going to see me near a hospital.
Yeah.
Those people, no, I don't go to a hospital unless my arm is falling off or one of my body parts needs to be reattached or surgery needs to happen. There's no need to go to a hospital.
Well, when I was, especially now, I'm just kind of still not back to 100%. But when I was really, really sick, I was talking to my doctor yesterday, and she's cool, cool, cool doc. But she's like, man, with these symptoms, I mean, I would have swore these are all COVID symptoms. If you didn't have those 2 tests, I was like, yeah, but I did, and I don't have it, and I was still sick. So
It's almost
it's a
like
virus.
this.
So what are we going to do? I didn't, I don't try and pressure her. She's just trying to do her job. You know what I mean? I'm not mad at her.
Yeah.
But it begs the question. So what if I did have COVID? What would they have done? Sent me home? Refused me treatment? Vaccinated me?
Giving you ivermectin?
Yeah, they wouldn't. They won't do that.
Monoclonal antibodies?
Can't have that in Canada. Right?
Oh, did they ban it in Canada?
I'm unaware of any of that treatment in Canada. That's only in the States. I don't know if it's available here. Ivermectin, you cannot.
Ivermectin isn't even what the main treatment is. It's the monoclonal antibodies. I'm not even saying it right. Apparently, is what the big thing is.
I'm not convinced. I don't buy that. I'm not so sure that ivermectin isn't a great treatment. They talk about these so-called studies, but I'm sorry, like proof's in the pudding. It can't hurt you. It's one of the safest drugs going. The worst thing that would happen is it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Or, what are you afraid of? That people are going to build up a resistance to ivermectin and Canadians won't be able to get cured from river blindness? I mean, it's not like it's a big problem here. So you can't buy that, and you see that's why people say horse dewormer and all this stuff because they have no argument for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, let me try it for a while and see what happens. If it doesn't work, well then fine. I think the problem is it will work. It will work. And it might work for other stuff too. That might be something.
It's already been
we just don't know. Maybe that is a cure to the common cold in some way. You can actually, not get rid of the cold, but maybe it will totally reduce the symptoms. And what happens if you do that? I mean,
the only thing that does that is being healthy.
Yeah.
And let's be
healthy. Don't make money.
Let's be real here. Cold, the flu, even some, well, maybe not pneumonia, I won't go too far, but the cold and the flu, it's what happens when your body goes through this thing called climatization.
Yeah.
It's when you switch from warm to cold or cold to warm. It doesn't matter which way you go. Your body's going to go through an immune system shock, or your immune system's going to get shocked when your body has to go into where it's got to go, and there's no stopping it. That's why the flu shot doesn't work.
Right.
It's why you don't need to get it, because there's no point to it, because you can't solve something that happens when your body just switches over from one climate to the next.
Right.
There's no cure for that, because that's what our bodies are designed to do. That's one of the beautiful things about the human body and what makes it so strong. The problem is that people think they have to hide from the symptoms of whatever's ailing them.
Yeah.
And so all of our doctors, they don't prescribe us anything that helps fix the problem, because they know just as well as I do, the only thing to fix your problem is to drink lots of water and to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because your body repairs itself while you're sleeping, and it's the only way to repair it. And then the only thing they can do is give you painkillers to deal with the pain that you're going through while your body's repairing itself. But it's your body doing all of the work.
Yeah.
And if you use your mind, you can, move that along a little bit quicker. But people aren't taught that, and they don't know that, so they think that they're going to the doctor to cure all their problems, when really they're just masking the symptoms. So you go to sleep, and your body fixes itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's nothing we can do except for let our body do what it does, in my opinion. But
Well, that's why a lot of
I'm not
the
a doctor.
stuff with fasting is coming out. You fast, you sleep, you
Yep.
stop, let your body stop working, start healing, and
You get all the toxins out of your body.
oh, geez, yeah. I mean, we got enough minerals in our body to last for 40 days, I believe it is.
Oh yeah, you can, and as long as you're getting some little bit of turmeric or some beef broth or some bone broth or whatever into your system while you're fasting, you're good to go.
Even then, if once you stop eating for a while, your body will eventually kick into ketosis.
Yeah.
And, unless you're deathly thin,
Yeah.
there's so much fat in your body. There's so much energy. You're good,
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done an experiment with it. It's great. In fact, some of the best healing I did it was when I just started looking for alternate ways, started going, okay, well, I'm not getting better. I'm getting worse. And I'm eating stuff in my face and nothing's happening. The minute I stopped, just started drinking salt water and went into a state of ketosis and did some fasting for 48 hours. I really noticed some big difference. So, yeah. And I told my doctor too. I was like, look, this is what happens when I eat. I lose some energy. I'm done. I can't stay up all day. I feel I'm slipping back. So I have no choice. I've got to just fast because obviously I'm not healed yet. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too, right? I'm starting to come to this theory right now that really, if it's not water, meat, so if it doesn't walk on the ground or get grown in it,
Yeah.
it shouldn't go in your body.
Yeah.
And that includes dairy.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Well, because dairy is just liquid meat.
Yeah.
I found out what milk was, and I was just like, what is milk actually? Why do we need to drink milk, and why do we stop drinking it when we get off our mother's tit? Well, it's because it's liquid meat. Your mother liquefies some meat inside of her and then gives it to you because you don't have teeth yet to chew your own meat. Because most humans are supposed to eat meat no matter what any vegan or anybody says. Now, I do believe in the blood type diet, so I do believe that depending on where you originate from depends on where or what type of diet you should be eating. Now, there are all kinds of different studies, and there are all kinds of different people that say, no, it's all phooey, and you shouldn't do it, this and this. But the reality is we've never stripped ourselves down to the bare bones diet and actually tried to fix our bodies from square one.
Well, there's an interesting argument about, I shouldn't say an argument, something to add to that conversation, because I hate that idea of the argument, because it's, I don't know. Unless you're playing semantics, it's assuming you're correct. And if you assume you're correct, well, you have to assume you're kind of full of shit.
Yeah, make an ass out of you and me.
That question of where we're all really from is an evolving subject, And,
just the blood type, because the blood type you can trace back to certain parts of the world.
Yeah, to some degree, as far as we know, but as many things, we assume so far, from what we know.
Could be wrong too.
We also assume that the Sumerians were the earliest civilization.
This is true.
And then Göbekli Tepe came in and bombed that out by 10,000 years. And, and then that's depending if you look at the water erosion at the Sphinx and the pyramid, well, that's might bomb that back another 10,000 years. So, you have to take it all with a grain of salt.
We're going this way now, are we?
Well, one thing when I got into the blood type diet a while back, I dove into this years ago and started thinking, okay, well, if I'm from I don't really know what I'm from, but if I'm kind of Newfoundland, Irish, English, pretty safe to say I'm kind of a bit of Norwegian, Celtic, Western European background. Say, okay, well, what did those guys eat before the Romans? So what do you think? What did people in England and Scotland and Norway and Sweden and Germany eat 5,000 years ago? Or not even 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago? Before Rome, right before Rome, what do you think they ate back then?
I'm not 100% sure. But I know with me being O negative blood and being from that whole Basque area region where O negative comes from, I could tell you it's meat and root vegetables.
Right. So
especially look at Ireland.
We get a
potatoes,
pretty good
meat
idea
and potatoes.
what kind of meat though. But don't forget, potatoes come from the Aztec mine culture.
Oh, do they?
Oh yeah,
Well, the
yeah. The
Druids were.
potatoes were brought over from in by the I think the Spanish brought them over, but they were grown. And what's interesting, and to this day, if you go to the mountains of Peru and other places, um, there's hundreds of varieties, not thousands of varieties of potatoes. Some grow at certain altitudes,
Mhm.
some don't grow at other words. And the idea was if you had a bad crop of one, you'd always have a good crop of another. Like, you know what I mean? Very clever.
Mhm.
And so that's what happened with the famine. You had a monoculture of the same type of potato, and then they got the frost, and boom, there it was. And, you know, so you had no food, no exports, and then, of course, all the farms. And they had lots of food, but the queen wouldn't let them have it and starved them all out. And, hey, let's get rid of you guys and let's steal your land, right? So,
Of course.
but the idea of what vegetables? So even meat, we know, well, they had stag and venison. I don't know if you're familiar with the auroch. That's a fascinating beast. So it's a wild version of cattle. Picture a great big wildebeest or something, a great big bull, 8 feet tall, right? Well,
Wow.
imagine a bull 15 to 20 feet tall.
Holy fuck.
I think the last wild auroch was killed in, I want to say, Romania in the 1500s or something like that. It was somewhere in Eastern Europe. I think it was the last one. But yeah, there were these giant, mean as shit bulls. And imagine that. And that would have been, yeah. And that was one of the animals they would have eaten. And that would, of
Yeah.
course, you can imagine would have been a huge deal. But then, you had your different, and then your regular bison and your elk and your horses. They would have ate horse because wild horse. And what else? There would have been probably wild boars, depending where you lived, foxes, rabbits, all kinds of stuff. Not necessarily different hares. I think the hare was imported to England. So you have those different animals, many, and fast rivers before agriculture in particular. The rivers were faster because they weren't all filled with silt. So fast running rivers would have huge runs of salmon and sturgeon and different fish and that sort of thing. Even like, yeah, when you get into that, history is really cool. Like, fishing in the Baltic Sea and these different seas and whatnot, how they overfished those. And that's why they had to come over here and get all the cod. But yeah, it used to be before heavy agriculture, fast rivers. And so fish from rivers would have been a huge, and lakes, huge source of food, as well as, but then it begs the question, well, what were the vegetables? What were the tubers? Like a lot of people don't know cattails. Like we have cattails all over the place. Cattails you can eat. I think there's 4 or 5 different things you can eat from them depending on the season. I'm still learning about it. The stalks are good, and the shoots are good in the spring, and in the fall you eat the tubers. So
Yeah.
there was different tubers, and it makes you wonder, well, what was in those tubers? And there was different, different greens and different things like that they would eat. Tree nuts. So it really makes you wonder, what the heck did our ancestors eat? And so when you go into the blood type thing, that's where I kind of started going. I was like, what the hell did people eat? So I started digging into history and trying to figure out, and it's very difficult to say, right? It's they find remnants of stuff, but that's the thing. You'll always say, oh, they had a diet rich of vegetables and meats, but of course, if you get into vegetables, you're like, well, the nightshades, were they tubers, or what kind of tubers, and how did they process them? And we don't know. And there's a great guy,
I saw
naturalist, yeah.
Actually, I would
Go
just
ahead.
want to interject here for a second because I saw a map one time that actually
Okay.
answers the question that you're kind of asking. And when I looked at this map, it showed, like, okay, how do I explain it? The theory that I came across was that O blood is the original blood type.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of soon to be the oldest version. Yeah.
I've come across this. I've had a friend of
Yep.
mine say that they didn't really know that, and they've studied all this stuff. And I was like, well, this is what I came across because I actually studied right into the blood because it started with what's blue blood. I
Right.
wanted to know where my blood type came from, right? Because I have one of the rarest types of blood, and I can give to everybody,
Right.
but I can't receive from anybody
Yeah,
except
it's
for
weird, eh?
O negative, right? So I started looking at it. And then I came into the blood type diet. And the reason I like this concept is because it made sense to me because my whole life I've been healthy as shit, other than when I smoked a pack and a half to 2 packs of cigarettes a day
Yep.
and drank a fucking shit ton when I was in the army and didn't take care of myself, fast food, blah, 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 blah. But regardless, eating meat, potatoes, or root vegetables for the most part, with carrots every once in a while and some corn and shit. But then I found out I was allergic to corn, oddly enough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's
So
weird.
because I always just eat meat and potatoes, and quite frankly, vegetables, most of them just kind of make me sick. They don't taste good. I have no will to eat them. There's just
Oh, wow. Yeah.
like I have no desire to eat vegetables at all, and even fruit. I'll eat fruit, but I actually have no. Then you got the A and the B types of blood, right? Which are the next evolution after O. So if we go back into the book of Enoch, basically the original blood type were the ones that were the closest to the gods. Right? So basically, and if you don't have any rhesus monkey in your blood, you are 100% not human from this planet. So the theory goes.
Okay.
I'll go like this because I don't know, and that's just what my intuition is saying. Maybe that's true, right? But we're still human, and we're still from here.
Okay.
Because regardless of whether you have no rhesus monkey or rhesus monkey in you, you still look like every other fucking monkey on this planet. Let's be real. We're all like other apes or whatever.
Yeah.
We're all some kind of alien hybrid ape thing. So the O comes from somewhere in Africa, I believe, and it basically comes to what you were saying. It doesn't matter what type of meat, whatever meat is around or whatever, right? And whatever root vegetables, I guess, because you got to have some kind of a variety. And then the A is like a Mediterranean area, so like the Greek, Egyptian area when that was all fertile and stuff like that. So you got a lot more vegetable based, like
often referred to as the agrarian type. Right?
Yeah. And then you got B, which I think was somewhere more India or something like that, if I can picture the map in my brain. It's like a map that I saw where it showed where everything went and why. So basically, depending on where you were and what was available to you there, and everything evolved. As after O, everything started getting farther and farther away from meat, is what it looks like, right? Yeah. So everything after that is just like, so that's why I could never be a vegan or a vegetarian. I actually tried to see if I could cut out meat, and because the cravings were so bad. And then I hear about these things where if you don't eat meat, sometimes people get this disease, and I can't remember what this disease is called.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that.
Well, somebody had told Erin about it one time, and she had told me about it, and I can't remember the name of it, and because we were talking about how our daughter wanted to become a vegetarian, but once she started getting into sports, you could very much tell that she needed that extra little kick that vegetables weren't going to give her. Right, because you needed that extra protein boost and that energetic feeling that you get from eating some meat.
Yeah.
Right. So when I started coaching her soccer and she started getting into Taekwondo and she couldn't do the fake meat anymore, and as soon as she started eating meat, she started feeling good and feeling healthy again.
Wow. Jeez.
But so you can like there's arguments that people are going to say that vegan and vegetarian is the way to go, but I'm sorry, I visibly saw people, and my daughter including, get visibly weaker and sicker from not eating meat.
Well, and it's interesting too. It again, if it follows that blood type thing, you could see how some people would do really well with less meat, and they could
exactly, which I do support as well.
Yeah, and of course, it's not as simple as just saying vegan, because
it's not as simple as saying the blood type either.
Yeah, but I mean, where I'm going is, all root vegetables aren't the same. There's such an incredible variety of vegetables and plants. And on top of that, there's such an incredible and wonderful variety of ways to prepare them.
There is.
Which is huge. So a really neat little thing was a guy named Ray Mears. He's a British naturalist. And I used to watch his shows, love it, because when I discovered him, it was like, oh, I'm good. Like a boy, it was like Boy Scouts. Oh man, it was great. And he'd go through Canada and did all kinds of stuff and all over the world. He had a series called Wild Britain, where he was trying to find out what the foraged food of Britain was, and it kind of tied into some of this historical stuff. And one of the things they found was they'd find these different tubers and different things, but they didn't know if were they poisonous or not. And he did one where he went to Australia, and some of the really fascinating methods of preparation that the Aboriginals would use for bush tucker, right? And there was one in particular. It was this kind of tuber that grows underneath the, it looks like a lily. It's got tuber, but you can't just eat it. It'll poison you. It'll kill you.
Kind of like a blowfish.
Type thing, yeah. Like, is that bad?
You can do it the right way, but if you don't do it the right way, you're dead.
And all kind of Australian foods like that, exactly. So the idea with this particular one, I think you'd peel it, and then they shred it, and then you'd put it in a bag of reeds or whatever, and you'd soak it in water overnight and squeeze all this, and it would leach all this chemical out. I forget how many. They did it for a couple days. I think it was a few type things. If you didn't do it long enough, you wouldn't get rid of it. And then once you leached all that stuff out, I believe then they would make it into a dough and cook it, and then you could eat it. And if you were to just take that out, you'd never think, if you taste tested it, and if you just roasted it, it would kill you. And if you just ate it raw, it would kill you. And if you just soaked it and ate it, it would kill you. Like how many? But it was so. And so what they did is they found a very similar tuber in England, and they tried to prepare it. And they did, and it tasted disgusting, and they didn't like it, and it didn't sit well with them. They didn't really finish it. But, maybe it was the wrong tuber, or maybe they didn't soak it long enough, or maybe they didn't cook it. Maybe they were supposed to boil it instead of soak it.
Food's a tricky thing, man.
Interesting, right? So then and vegetables
love
are tricky that way, right?
Yeah.
So it's funny, and I think sometimes with veganism, that's one of the tricks. If you decide you want to go down that path, you have to be. I think, to me, I would just say, have fun. You gotta try lots of different stuff, and don't quit either. Try different ways. Try making your own hummus. It doesn't work for you. Well, maybe you need another protein, or don't eat too many beans, or maybe you need more beans. I mean, there's the classic. A lot of folks would do, in Latin America, is really popular, beans and rice. It's a great combination. Remember, it was another show I watched. These young fellows went down and they decided they were just going to try and live on $1 a day type thing. And I forget where they were. They were eating rice and beans, and they're already skinny kids anyways. And they were just emaciated, and it wasn't working. They're trying to grow food. They didn't have a clue about growing food. It was funny because it just goes to show, like, if you don't know what you're doing, you're screwed. And they were talking to the locals, and they're like, "Oh, we're starving." And they're like, "Oh, well, you need some pork back fat, man." They go, "What?" Yeah, just put a tablespoon or two of that in the pork and bean, or in the rice and beans, because they couldn't afford food, but you could just have a bit of fat. And they put a little bit of the fat in, and within days started coming right back, got their energy back, and so just that idea.
Yeah, that's the funny thing is that humans actually need, and even Joe Rogan, when he did when he went on his carnivore diet for a while there, for like a month or so, he was even talking about how he had to have bacon as a staple because he needed that fat.
Yeah, and then some people say, "Oh, they get explosive diarrhea and stuff." Well, it's like, but he only ate ribeye, and it's like, well, I found, like, when I do it quite often, and it's like, get a bit of cheese. Some people say, "Oh, too much cheese bogs me up," right? It's like, oh yeah, well, if you're eating all this meat and you're a little loose, eat some cheese, and lo and behold. Or chuck in a little bit of greens or whatever. Who knows? You don't have to be super rigid about these things. Mix it up. But
the thing about that diarrhea thing, though, is that only happens once your body needs to be cleaned out. And then once your body gets cleaned out, which is the diarrhea part, then you don't have the problem anymore.
Yeah, once your gut biome kind of reacts.
Levels itself.
I used to eat I'd eat a lot of beef jerky, and I found it it almost functions like a fiber because it's so hard, and so interesting, and your gut biome kind of changed. But food's just fascinating. Love it. I kind of miss bread and stuff. I think I'm going to be go vegan for the summer.
Are you?
Just to trim down. Yeah.
Try it?
Well, I'm going to be farming a lot. I'll probably go mostly
good luck.
vegan, and I'll probably have a little bit of meat. I want to get into hunting, and I may, depending on the land, if I can get a pig or something, I'd like to raise a pig and kind of get into not depending. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mind going to the local ranchers and stuff. It's great. But I'd like to try a little something different,
I want to get into bow hunting.
Well, the thing is,
Speaking about
since
hunting?
I'm not vaccinated and I can't get my pal, I was
Oh, is
like,
that-
I really want to get hunting. Well, I can't get my
So that is a thing. You can't get your pal if you're not vaccinated.
Nope. So I can't buy ammo. I can't buy a gun. So I can go bow hunting.
Well, you need a license for that too.
Not to buy it.
Oh, it's true.
I can go get my hunting license,
Yeah.
right? Hopefully, I don't need a vaccination to get the hunting license. I think it's more about the firearms course.
Well, you got to do the hunter safety course too.
Yeah, so we'll see. I might be able to do that online and pass it though. I don't know if it's the same as.
Well, if you find that out
Good
before I
question.
do,
I'll
let me
find
know.
out. I'll have to find out. But either way, getting a damn bow, I'm going to practice. Because at least if I can have my form down and know how to do it and hit a
Yeah.
target and practice, at least I'm a step ahead of the game and have some fun. And
Well, the
Yeah.
reality too is
unless
that
they come knocking for us on December 15th, I'll have to.
the vaccination
that.
thing can only last for so long before the whole world revolts and said we've had enough of this shit. And that's what
Yeah.
we're hoping for, and that's what has to happen. Like, I'm still very much a firm believer that I'm not going to go full tinfoil hat here, but I do very much believe that there's just too many coincidences for this to be not orchestrated in some way.
Yeah, and even if you go with
It's
the old
just two.
historical method, like the Nazis wanted the whole world,
Yeah.
and they had a plan for it. They had it all planned out,
Oh, yeah.
and they had science on their side. By the way,
Yeah.
doctors, Dr. Mengele, a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
doctors
Oh, yeah.
figured it all out, but it didn't work. So, but they did exterminate, 6 million people that we know of.
The Russians killed more,
Yeah.
and so did the Chinese. So we put Hitler on this big fucking pedestal like he was some big super criminal, but really Mao and Stalin were worse.
Yep.
And I'm not okay. Tinfoil here for a second here.
Yeah.
When did Hitler actually die?
Oh, yeah.
Like, let's be real here.
Nobody knows.
Let's be fucking real, because
I
I've
think
heard
we know.
1984 in Argentina.
Well, I know that the Russians claim they had a portion of his skull.
Yeah,
And then when it was finally tested, it was a young woman's.
yeah.
So that wasn't true.
And Eva
And he
Braun
was
wasn't there
known
either.
to have doubles.
They all have
Him
doubles.
So
Saddam Hussein, look how many doubles he had.
and Dr. Mengele got out, and many others got out. So it's not.
They all went
Well,
down
it's
to
not-
Antarctica.
Yeah, it's not our theory. Well,
And
Dr.
why are-
Mengele went to Argentina.
Well, they went to Antarctica, then they all went to Argentina.
That too, yeah.
Because the whole thing was the Germans had fucking space. They had those disc crafts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we didn't see them in the sky, but
Yeah.
there's pictures of them. And I'm sorry, if there's pictures of them, then they're real.
Well, they also had airplanes
Yeah.
and trains and friends at fuel and chemical and pharmaceutical companies and computer companies like IBM.
But the one thing that they have been doing since the World War II,
What's that?
they've been dumping fluoride into the water and making everybody complacent and dumb.
Yeah, that too. That too.
Calcifying the pineal gland.
Craziness.
So
Crazy.
you can't connect to source.
Well, that's it. And a lot of weird, yeah.
And then they taught you that you could pray for something dead and it would come back when it won't, instead of doing the opposite, what spiritualism does and teaches you to water the plant in the garden.
Wait, walk me through that part. What's this? Because we're in tinfoil hat time, so sometimes I get lost because
Okay.
we've all got our own type of tinfoil hat shape.
I saw a meme. I saw a meme the other day, which was the difference between religion and spirituality, and I didn't quite
Okay.
explain it properly in my rant.
Okay.
So in the meme, on one side, it's a girl praying to a dead flower for it to come back.
Okay.
Just praying for something and without doing the work.
Right.
Spirituality on the other side was a girl watering the garden and everything growing out of control.
Right.
So spirituality, you're taking control of yourself and watering the garden, whereas in religion, you're praying and hoping for somebody else to do the work for you.
Right. Yeah.
Which is also what they've done. They've brainwashed into thinking that God is going to do all the work for you. Well, and the reality is that you are connected to God, but you have to do all the work yourself.
I remember
Because you are a fractal.
I was at work one time and one of the guys was saying something, we were talking about Jesus and religion and whatnot, and I was like, okay, and I like talking to those guys about that. That's great. Doesn't hurt me any, and get what he was saying. He was saying, well, he goes, I just, He goes, you don't have to think, just trust in Jesus and he'll take care of it for you. And I said, God gave me a brain to think with.
Free will.
He didn't want, I don't think the intention was ever to turn it off. So I know where you're coming from. I know you mean well, but I'm sorry. I won't turn my brain off. I think that would be against what God wants. So you believe what you want.
Yeah.
And he didn't really know what to say to that. I was like, look. So that's my version of God. So no, I won't just, I think the teachings of Jesus are absolutely fantastic.
Well,
great stuff. But I don't think if Jesus was here, he wouldn't tell me to do the same thing either. He wouldn't say, stop thinking.
No, Jesus was he was a yogi, man.
Yeah.
He was a Buddhist and a yogi. He's exactly what me and you are, and I can already tell what you are, and you're like me. You have a little bit of every religion, but none of them all.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because they all have what they all are, and then doing that.
And as modern people, I mean, we were born in North America, this crazy melting pot. We were lucky to have, my whole life I've been influenced by indigenous culture and indigenous religion, as much as Christian religion.
Mm-hmm.
And some really beautiful stuff from Muslim thought. And the yogi tradition, the Hindu stuff. I'm learning a bit about that now. But it's embrace it all, man. It's all good.
And Jesus wanted you to be you.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's all the one thing I was going to add, I got on the tangent there.
And he also didn't hide from the lepers.
No.
He was a healer, right? Not exclude them. And he didn't have one method for everybody either.
Everybody was different.
Funny, eh? How that worked.
It's almost like he knew about quantum reality.
He also fasted in the wilderness for, 40 days?
I wanted to say something about surrendering, though. Because I'm not saying, like, I am with you, and I'm not about surrendering over to God to take care of your life. But at some point in times, you have to surrender the things that aren't in your control over to the divine force in order for that to be sorted out in its own way. Right. But even when you do that, it's still up to you to take care of you and do you.
Yeah.
So you're never actually surrendering over yourself to the divine, but the circumstances around your life and the people that you can't control, you have to surrender to the divine to learn their karmic lessons and move on with their lives, right?
Right.
Whereas you have to still worry about you because, like you said, God gave you a brain. The universe gave you free will.
Yep.
Or Fractal Chris said, I'm going to take your memory of what I am, and I'm going to stick you on this planet for you to learn a bunch of shit. Yeah. But I'm going to give you the ability to figure it out yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And even Morgan Freeman said it.
Oh, yeah?
Remember in Bruce Almighty?
Never saw that movie.
Never saw Bruce Almighty?
That one or The Truman Show. I'll have to give them a go. I mean, I know a bit about him. But
see, Jim Carrey's a funny guy.
Yes, fascinating character.
It's hard to pin down where he actually stands because he's always in all of those movies that kind of telling you what's going on. And he's always kind of there telling you what's going on. He makes people uncomfortable, but he kind of gives off like he's in the cult, but he's not. He's almost like he's like a Donald Trump. You don't know where he is or what he's doing. He's just there.
And the new stuff, the last few things he did, you just kind of wonder, like,
he's one of those guys that
or is he kind of like, he's so in deep in the cult and yet tricked them into thinking they had him when all along they never really did.
That's what it seems like.
Very intelligent guy and one of those, like you have your Einstein intelligence, and then you have, Marshall physical intelligence,
Bruce Lee intelligence.
Yeah, Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd trust him to do my taxes, but if it came to, if I needed someone to represent me in any sport, there's your champion. The guy's, he's got a sports intelligence beyond, right? And and he's got that comedic weird thing that comedians have, a weird way of looking at the world in a very different light than the rest of us. Hmm.
It's like like what I was talking about before, comedians and musicians,
Yeah.
and not even all musicians, because most musicians are too stoned to realize what they're seeing.
Yeah, that's the only way they can handle it.
Let's be real here.
Yeah.
I've talked to a bunch of musicians where I thought that they were dead on with their messages, and then I find out they don't know what they're talking about,
Yeah.
or they're just spouting shit that came to them, and it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go over here now because, yeah, I'm just gonna go over here now.
Yeah.
That's what I have to do because I just don't know what to say to them. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, that's such an enlightened fucking name. Oh yeah, it just sounded cool.
I've also seen some really cool, met some musicians who were absolute top notch skill level. And yet, socially, you're kind of assholes
Well, that's the problem.
or
With,
clueless or just,
well, when you spend that much time,
total followers, have no idea what's going on in the real world. They just know their little.
well, it's because they spend so much of their brain power just on that one thing. And you
Yeah.
can't. The funny thing is you can't even blame them. And I know I said that fucking derogatory thing about having to walk away from them, but it's just.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Like, I'm the type of guy that I've walked the fucking salt of the earth. I've been to
Yeah.
places that most people wouldn't even dream about going, and I would go back again.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I look at the world a little bit different, just like the stand-up comedians and the really bright musicians,
Yeah.
the ones that
Yeah.
actually go, whoa.
Well, that's why we're sitting here with a lot of other people like ourselves going, do people not see what's going on? And a lot of them just don't. They cannot put it together.
They don't. Well, and what it is they don't know their history. I
Yeah.
saw a meme that described it perfectly today. Conspiracy theorists aren't crazy; they're history buffs.
Yeah. That's actually kind of
That's kind of
kinda
fucking
true.
apt,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm not anti-vaccine, but I know what mandating something that you don't need leads to, because look at what they did in Nazi Germany,
Yeah.
and look
Yeah.
at what they do in China. Look at what they've done in Russia.
Mhm.
But I believe actually Russia is a different place now, and it's actually a little bit better than we think it is nowadays.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure what's going on there. You got your oligarchs, and then you got Putin kind of doing his thing. And
Well,
it's a different place, a different
the
culture.
theory
Great
is
people.
the theory is here's the theory. It's India,
Mhm.
and actually Xi Jinping is not on the side that you think he's on.
Oh yeah.
Putin and Trump. And they were the ones that before 2020 were were squaring the world away.
Hmm.
Because when Trump went on his world tour, he went 3 key spots. First, Saudi Arabia, where he was basically crowned the fucking leader of Saudi Arabia. I saw the ceremony.
Yeah.
Then he went to the Vatican, where the Pope walked behind him. And then he went to London, where the Queen walked behind him as well. And the Queen doesn't walk behind anybody.
Yeah. Interesting.
There's video footage of it. So
I
this
haven't
isn't a conspiracy.
seen- there was like a 3-hour interview with Neil Farage interviewed Trump a couple days ago,
Okay.
and I only saw one little clip of it so far. I got to sit. I just haven't had time to say, okay, I'm gonna go sit out and cook supper, do some exercises, and hang out and listen to what this guy has to say. Because I really like Neil Farage,
And don't get me wrong, Trump is
Yeah.
an actor.
Yeah.
Trump is not like Trump did a very good job being the president. Don't get like you can't convince me that he didn't. With all the peace that he actually brought in, and he never
Yeah.
actually started it. He actually didn't kill it. He didn't kill anybody. I think no, wait, he dropped something on somebody once.
Syria was going on. I'm not sure what happened there.
It was just one. Actually, no, there was the one precision strike that he did, and it was so precise that no collateral damage or well, there was
Okay.
collateral, but there was no civilian casualties, no nothing. It was just they got the guy they were going for, and that was it.
Okay.
It was so precise. Right? So it was like that's the guy. Okay, because when you think American military, you think that that's what they can do.
Right.
Reach out and just go like that, just like a precision strike. It's the most powerful military on the planet. Why were there civilian casualties in anything that they did?
Yeah.
Like they're supposed to be the civilized of the civilized with the most sophisticated military on the planet.
Yeah, but of course, there's that myth that we got all this high tech that we can just the precision, but it's
they didn't care. It's the leaders that don't
There you
care,
go,
right?
Right.
And then the guys are all gun ho thinking they're getting terrorists, and by the time they find out that they wasn't terrorists, it's already too late, and they got PTSD because
Which is why all the drones.
did something
I've
wrong.
never met a drone operator. I've only met the Canadian Forces guys and gals, and yeah, they don't have too many fond stories about their job.
No, and neither do I really.
Yeah.
But it's something that has to be done. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. I would do my job over and over again because it has to be done. And the only way to sort those countries out, and I have to say sort them out because we have to go in there and root out all of the bad things. And you can only do it with the civilized military or police forces that we have over here in the Western world
Right.
or in the more sophisticated areas of the world.
No, we've got to do it here.
Now we have to do it here because we've brought them all here. Which we brought them all here to make it easier for them to subdue us.
Or they were already here
A little bit of both.
with suits
A little bit of both.
working for banks and pharmaceutical companies
All of the above.
and lobbyists.
So getting back to it, those countries, India, Russia, and even China itself, that's why Trump was allowed to go to North Korea and actually do peace with Kim Jong-un. Was it Un? Or, yeah, it was Un.
Yep.
Did peace with him because he already had permission from China when he went over to the Forbidden City with Xi Jinping, which nobody's allowed to go to. So it was a very big moment that Trump was allowed to go there. And it's not even actually Trump. Trump's just a figurehead because whoever's behind him is actually doing all the work or whatever, apparently. We don't know because look at what's going on now.
Yeah.
And everything's in peril. And the one thing, the reason I kind of believe that story is because it's the only way to make sense that Joe Biden and Justin Trudeau are in charge of the two freest countries on the planet. Like the only actual free country is the United States. And then right after that, it's actually Canada because we're pretty much American. And the problem that they have in Canada is the same problem they have in the United States. They can't actually lock us down as efficiently because everybody outside of the city has weapons. More weapons per capita than the United States. But we mainly only use them for hunting, so you never hear about it.
So actually, that brings up a point because I live in the city. What the heck
Now, I don't know about the city.
is going on? You were saying December 15th.
Yeah. No, I don't. That was just something I came across. It was from a tweet.
Yeah. Hopefully,
It was a
that's
screenshot
not
of
true.
it. It was a screenshot of a tweet, and it didn't say that it was happening. It just said that the Liberals and the NDP supported it.
Okay.
So it didn't say that it was happening yet. It was in support of.
It's funny. The first thing I see, I just looked this up. Lockdowns killed more Canadians under 65 than COVID-19.
Ha!
Yeah.
That's a thing. So
Let's see. Lockdowns, Canada, December. Let's see what that says.
duck go that shit.
You know, I'm duck going it.
Are you duck going it?
Full goose.
So I should Google it.
Yeah, exactly. Wikipedia. Oh, what's this? Coronavirus Canada updates. Lockdown to begin for all of Ontario, December 26th. Says COVID. That could be last year, though. Wait a minute. No, there should be a date. No, it doesn't have a date. Well, there's the Germany locks down unvaccinated people 1 day ago.
Well,
Austria just said it.
They did the same thing in Austria, and then right away, like the next week or like a couple days later, they locked everybody down.
Yeah. Exactly.
So the same thing. What I think is going to happen is they're going to try and they're going to do the same thing. They're going to lock people down.
Yep.
And then they're going to lock everybody down for Christmas.
Yep.
Keep everybody separate for Christmas.
Yeah.
And then one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to really fucking go through and start grabbing people from their homes.
Yep.
or the resurrections?
So, since we're
Are we going to
having
talk?
fun and we like to talk about stuff, and we are not a news organization.
We're just
I
two
am
guys
not-
talking about shit.
Yep, I'm
Talking
not
out of our
home.
ass.
We're having fun. It's Friday night. Let's talk about that.
Resurrections.
Yeah, tell me what are you thinking?
Who do I think is going to be resurrected?
Yeah,
First off, Princess Diana.
okay. I wasn't expecting you to say that. Now, by resurrected, do you mean like in the biblical sense,
Maybe not so much biblical.
or she wasn't really dead type thing?
I believe that she wasn't really. Because
I hope you're right. That would be awesome.
I don't
She
believe
seemed pretty
this-
cool,
I don't believe the story.
even though she was. I don't know much about her.
Now,
lady.
I will say before anybody thinks I'm fucking crazy, if it turns out that she was always dead the whole time, of course, I'm not going to be surprised. Let's be real, okay? But
or murdered.
let's also look at that. Let's think about this one. How likely is it that the paparazzi was actually able to hold off the ambulances for half an hour in the middle of a tunnel while Princess Diana laid there dying? Because that's the official story. It happened inside of a tunnel, and the paparazzi held everybody off long enough for her to die, and they wouldn't let anybody get to her to save her. And that's Princess Diana, the most loved princess on the planet.
Well, and the fact is,
And it was in a tunnel
she's a
underwater.
royal, so they don't screw around with those folks. Yeah, I don't
So
know.
it's either she was murdered by
Mind
the royal
you,
family.
Have you ever been to London?
No.
It's a huge city, and Europe's weird. You ever been to Europe?
Yes, I lived in Germany for
Okay.
3 years. I lived on the
Yeah.
border of France and Germany.
So I mean, it is
CFB Baden.
right. Okay, yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, it's London's a trip. It is a trip,
I do want to go.
and it's weird, and it's old, and there's all kinds of tiny weird roads. So if it was you and I in that tunnel,
I thought the tunnel was in France, though, that she died in.
oh, I don't know. Maybe you're right. I don't know. I don't know. Is that the case?
I thought it was in France that she died.
Maybe you're
not
right.
England.
So it's not completely.
And it was one of those ones under the
impossible.
channel or something.
Yeah, it's not completely impossible, but it does seem strange.
Well, here's what I'm going to say.
It does seem strange because yeah,
When it happened,
when it would go over the radio that it's a royal, then you would think, I don't know.
when it happened, my brain went, okay, yeah, Princess Diana's dead.
Okay.
But then my gut went, that doesn't seem right. It doesn't make sense that that's how that happened. Kind of like Epstein dying in the cell.
You know, at the
It doesn't
time, I
make
never
sense.
thought much of it, but now
Now that I
I'm a
point that
little
out,
older and a little more jaded. Yeah, fishy.
because the story is, this is the story that I heard. She found out something about the royal family.
Right.
I'm not going to say that it might have been that they were lizards, but
Yeah.
I just threw that there for fun. And I can tell you it's possible too, because let's face
Hey,
it, it's in all of our conspiracies. So it's something's got to be there somehow, right?
yeah.
So, and we have all kinds of things about lizard people depicted on the pyramids and shit. So let's get fucking real here. This isn't just some conspiracy. This has been written on
I
our
like
fuck.
the Stargate
Yeah,
Go Old version.
yeah. Like this is it's written on our fucking the walls of our ancient structures.
Yep.
So let's just forget I said that for a second. She found something out about the royal family and wanted out because she was never really a royal anyway, and blah, blah, blah. If you watch all the documentaries, you can kind of see it. But she knew that she couldn't get out because once a royal, always a royal,
Okay.
right? That's just the way it is. Even Harry and what's her face, fucking, they're not out of the family.
Right.
But, you know, they kind of are, I guess. but it's not really that easy to get out of that. So anyway, she needed out, and so she approached JFK Jr. and Donald Trump to help her fake her death.
Donald Trump
Hold on, I'll tie it all
and
together.
JFK Jr.
I'll tie it all together for you.
Okay.
Because JFK Jr. had vowed that he would always find the killer of his dad.
You mean JFK, the fellow who died in the plane crash? That JFK Jr.?
Yes.
Okay.
He vowed that he would always bring down the people who murdered his father.
Right. Okay. I'm with you.
Okay. So they were already working and had a plan because they knew that because JFK was shot, they knew that they had to work behind the scenes and they couldn't do it overtly.
Right.
Because his dad tried to do it.
Down
the cabal.
Yeah.
And he got killed. So
right.
A military team was put in place behind JFK. Q.
Okay.
That's why when you look at JFK's burial site in Arlington Cemetery from the sky, there's a big giant Q there as well.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioned that. Check that out. Yeah.
I've been there too. It's kind of weird. Giant Q there as well.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioned that. Check that out. Yeah.
I've been there too. It's kind of weird.
Oh wow. Cool.
Yeah. Now, maybe this isn't all true, but this is the most coherent, logical story, if it was true, this could be. So, fast forward, JFK Jr. is old enough now. He's making waves, doing whatever. Princess Diana finds out all that shit. She gets all like woohooed and what are we going to do here? At the same time, Michael Jackson's getting fucked with in the music industry, right?
Okay.
Right? Funny, I heard something about him. About the time he got lit on fire?
Like the Pepsi commercial?
I think so.
Yeah.
The Pepsi commercial.
Yeah.
Remember that, and we'll come back to that later.
Okay.
So she approaches them. They come up with this plan in the tunnel. Fake her death, probably bring her down through the sewer systems and out. And blah, 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 blah. That's why it took so long, and they had the paparazzi hold everybody off. It wasn't really the paparazzi, but that's what they said. If that's what happened, which would make more sense than the paparazzi being able to hold an ambulance off for Princess fucking Diana for half an hour.
Yeah.
While she died. Princess Diana.
Yeah.
No, sorry. I'm not buying it. But maybe. So she's gone off wherever. JFK Jr. finds out that Hillary Clinton's going to place a bomb inside the plane one day when they were going for a vacation. They find the bomb. They send the plane out with the pilot. The pilot gets out of the plane before the plane explodes. Plane explodes, blah, blah, blah. No bodies were actually found or anything for that plane crash.
Oh, wow.
If I remember correctly, nothing was found. And it was supposed to be JFK Jr., his wife, and his wife's sister.
Okay, right.
And he's an experienced pilot. There's no way that he should have crashed that plane out off the coast of where I think it was Florida. Was it Florida?
Can't remember now.
I can't remember, but it was off the East Coast somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken. Probably Florida. It would probably have to have been Florida because Donald Trump was involved.
Oh, Mar-a-Lago.
So they crashed the plane out there, did whatever. Donald Trump sent a boat out there to go get whoever was out there, and blah, 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 off they go to the island, whatever island they're on.
Right.
For the rest of whatever 20 years that they needed. Because they had a plan.
Right.
And before JFK Jr. went missing or died, he had this magazine called George.
Okay.
Do you know why it was called George?
No.
Because he was pointing out who killed his father.
Soros? No. Okay.
George Bush.
Ooh. Who was
Senior.
director of the
CIA.
CIA at the time, right? Interesting.
So, the killer of JFK has been hidden in front of us the whole time. Through the magazine, the JFK Jr. If this is all true. If not, that it's all a bunch of hogwash and whatever. But let's face it, we don't know who killed JFK for real because that story doesn't make fucking sense either.
No, that's right. And if ever there was a strange, unexplained, bizarre political event in our over here in our neck of the woods. That's on people always went, that's weird.
Hey, Flint. So
Wow.
let's further tie Donald Trump into it. Now, in order to tie Donald Trump all the way into this conspiracy theory, we have to talk about Nikola Tesla.
Okay.
And the one thing we need to talk about with Nikola Tesla is when they sent the government in there to clear out Nikola Tesla's
His lab, yeah.
his lab and shit. I was thinking the word escaped
Yeah.
me for some reason. I was thinking workspace or some shit.
Yep.
Anyway, Donald Trump's uncle was working with Nikola Tesla.
Ooh.
Donald Trump's uncle emptied Nikola Tesla's safe with all of the important stuff in it to do with time travel and shit.
That's weird. Is Donald Trump his own uncle?
I don't know if it's that. I don't know if it's that far.
Holy.
But then you can get into the story about Baron von Trump and down through the fucking caves of Russia, which is a time traveling story meant in the 1800s, revolved around a man named Donald Trump from the future, where we are right now.
Oh, I
So
heard that one.
Oh yeah.
But maybe that explains why the Berenstain Bears.
The Mandela effect, right? That's why C-3PO's leg is now like a silvery color and not a gold color. Because they're going through and they're only changing little things, because the government's also got wind of a lot of this technology too, and this ideas as well. So they go back and they change little things to see what they can do in order to see how much of history they can actually change without fucking everything up.
I was watching a video of a guy online. I was like trying to dig into some flat earth kind of stuff, you know, because I went, okay, well, it's not really my bag. But I said, every once in a while, I'm like, let's watch one of these videos, see what these guys got to say.
Some of it's convincing as fuck.
Some of it's interesting, you know. But this one guy, he was kind of talking about a few things. I was like, okay, it's kind of neat. He was talking about the height of mountains, and some of it was interesting. I didn't really have the math to back it up. But he had traced a bunch of coastlines. And then we'd go back, and they were different. That was weird. He would go through with Google Earth and all these different places he'd traveled. He'd traveled all over the place. And he would go through with like a red dot and kind of trace the coastlines. If you want to measure your distance, right?
Yeah.
So he would trace the coastlines. Then he'd go back and check once in a while. And after some of them had changed.
Woo. Well, water.
That was spooky.
The sea does rise. So it would change every once in a while, but maybe not. Anyway, continue.
Well, these were like beyond. So, for example, if I was going to trace my phone here and he'd pick these every once in a while he'd cheat if it was like super detailed, but most of it he'd go over. He would show how he would do it, you know. But if there was like a big corner, he wouldn't won't go over it. He'd make points, you know.
Yeah, I know how to do that.
When he went back, they were all very different. And you could say, oh, well, maybe the guy faked it. Okay, yeah, maybe. It's kind of a weird thing. But it was more about, you know, looking into a Mandela effect thing. And yeah, that is a strange one when you dig into it. And when you look into the concept of not just time travel, or Michio Kaku used to I had a couple of his books that were really cool. And they were kind of quantum physics and theoretical physics for laymen. It's really what they were.
Yeah.
And they were really neat. You know, when he exposed the flatlander thing, you know, how a flatlander, if you live in the flatland and an orange went through your land, you'd perceive it as a circle starting as a dot, getting bigger and smaller, you know, that kind of stuff. And the idea that time travel, you're really going to like another, maybe not universe, but yeah, an alternate universe type thing, right? So that whole concept, and of course, that just seems so strange, you know, in an endless version of universes, and how the hell do you do that? But when you start thinking about our consciousness and these different journeys through Earth and your reincarnations and stuff, and different, you know, you go beyond the third dimension, suddenly those ideas aren't quite so crazy.
Starts to also all of a sudden start making a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Like right
and
now,
with CERN, once they bust these things off, if it's not what they say it is, you know, or even if it is exactly what they say it is, but maybe when you start messing with stuff at the subatomic particles level, you know, Who knows what it does to the nature of reality? Maybe it shift all of our consciousness. Boom, and we just snapped into the second Earth. And maybe they're in our Earth now. Maybe that's how it works.
We don't know.
Nobody knows, yeah.
But what I do know is that the Earth is going through the biggest consciousness shift on the planet, right, or in existence right now. And from what I've been told, this is the only time throughout all of eternity that something to this scale has been attempted with this many people at the same time. So in all of the galaxies and all of the universe,
Yep.
this is the first time this many people on one planet have been going through an ascension process. And that has a lot to do with the whole story of Atlantis.
With Atlantis?
Yes.
Okay, this is going to need some background music as you tell the Atlantis story.
Oh, background music. We're getting it.
Is Atlantis an A minor key?
Maybe, because it did sink into the ocean.
It does, but something says capo. And I never capo, but hey, the world's changing.
Well, we finally got a guitar, and it's like been over an hour into the podcast. We finally pulled an instrument out. We just started talking, and that was just how it went. But that's how it goes.
So talk about the ascension of Atlantis connection.
Well, 13,000 years ago, maybe 11,800, somewhere around there, there was an advanced civilization that may or may not have been screwing with the ultimate frequency. They may have found the God frequency, they called it.
Oh,
The universal frequency, the center of all. And they were messing with it. And they tore a hole through the space-time fabric, and there was all kinds of dimensional beings leaking into the wrong dimensions and things like that. And they were causing all kinds of problems because they were trying. Apparently, one of the groups of Atlantis was trying to get back to their own timeline, which may or may not have been Martian.
weird. That's weird.
May not, maybe. I don't know. But the story I heard is that one of the groups in Atlantis, when Atlantis formed, actually came from Mars before they blew, or just as they blew off their atmosphere in Mars. Because Mars used to be just like Earth. And it used to have all kinds of civilizations on it. But then what they did, from one of the stories I heard, is that they conducted what's called the Lucifer experiment. And what the Lucifer experiment actually is when you cut yourself off from source. Kind of like what they've been trying to do with us here on planet Earth right now, and cut us off from the actual source and making us believe in a God that doesn't like us.
Right.
And that's why it's so hard, because we're looking for something outside of ourselves instead of looking on the inside, which is where it all is.
You know something neat? In any near-death experience that I've heard about, not one of them said, yeah, I felt unwanted.
Right?
They all, across the board, felt loved.
Exactly. So they did that. They came here, and through many years of fighting with the actual Atlanteans, which are actually the Lumerians evolved into Atlanteans, they were messing with the frequency, and then the ascended masters were living on Earth at the time, because the Earth at that time was full of all kinds of beings, interdimensional giants, all kinds of fun little things floating around, all living together, based on the whole stories from the Book of Enoch up and forward, right? So, because they were messing with that, the ascended masters said, listen, you can't be doing that. And what you did to that planet and what you're doing to the people on that planet and making them your slaves, you have to stop. Because at that point, humanity was still a slave race. And we were trying to interact and be with everybody, right? Because, well, let's face it, human beings, the way we are now, we're made to be slaves. That's why parts of our DNA are turned off. That's why our feet aren't proportional to the way our body is. Like, that's why we walk all fucked up. Because I saw a little thing one time where they compared a caveman's foot, like a Neanderthal's foot, to a human, and it's very visible that the human foot is flawed compared to the Neanderthal's foot. Because the Neanderthals were the Atlanteans.
Ooh. What about the Denisovians?
All of them, whatever. They were all running around the planet at the same time. But
I saw some neat thing about Denisovians. One thought was they might have been super autistic
mhm,
and the ability to do huge, incredible mathematical computations in their mind.
wouldn't doubt it.
Neat stuff.
But all of those
Yeah.
races were wiped away when the big flood happened.
Right.
Because they were told that the planet had to be giving back to us. Because it was unfair the way we were treated, but because we were also part of what was going on and we didn't properly protect ourselves with our Merkabas, when they did that and we went through, and also when they went through the Earth was shit, or fucking, I think it was like an Earth shift or whatever, we lost our memories.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
And we lost everything. For a couple reasons. The people that didn't get affected by the flood, that were hidden in the mountains, they had no concept of what was going on. And everybody that was in the flood all got flooded out except for Noah and the genetic material for all of the animals that needed to be made. Right? Because Noah's Ark wasn't an ark, it was a fucking submarine. And all of the alien and interdimensional races that were on the planet were told that they had to leave. And so now they're all on the dark side of the moon watching us, because for the last 13,000 years they haven't been allowed to interact. And that's why we also have things like the Greys and stuff like that interacting with the US government and stuff like that. They're grounded shit.
But weren't they didn't like us though? Was that the idea?
They're us from the future, apparently. They're what we evolve into. They're also a fragment of what Sirius, the beings that come from Sirius. And because the thing with the Greys too is they're part reptilian. If you want to go into the Greys and you want to talk about alien races, they're like a form of some kind of humanoid reptilian type fucking hybrid or some kind of evolved shit. They're like, but I've also heard that they're us from the future. So it's hard to say what we are going to turn into, but eventually our body is going to become more crystalline, and our skull cavities are going to get bigger, and our bodies are going to get weaker, because we're going to start using more of our brain power, and we're going to become more crystalline, and we may even become more etherical. Or maybe not more etherical, I'm not 100% sure, because we're actually going to more crystalline type of existence. Because we used to be etherical. Because life has always been on this planet, about 64 feet tall, but they were etherical.
Oh, weird.
And they were on the planet around the time when it was all molten. And as the planet cooled down and turned into what it started turning what it is, the beings started to become more dense. And the Hyperboreans came around. And then by the time the Lumerians came, they were giant cyclopses.
Oh, wow.
The Cyclops is actually a Lumerian. And then they slowly evolved and got more dense and turned into the Atlanteans. The one eye turned into three eyes, which turned into two eyes, and the third eye sucked back into the back of your middle of your brain, called the pineal gland.
Right.
So, and then the Atlanteans just started shrinking, and the whole time everybody started shrinking. That's why all of those ancient monuments in fucking Egypt were all like huge. Because the people that built them were giants.
Right.
Or the beings that built them were giants.
And all the gods are always depicted as giants.
That's why. But we can't believe it because we don't see them, because they're not allowed to interact with us anymore because slaves.
So there you go. So if they're the ones that made us into slaves, and they're stuck on the dark side of the moon,
Well, there's the dark side of the moon, there's Mars, there's
Right.
Saturn.
So they used to make us as slaves. So that means they want us to be slaves again? That's the question.
Well, the thing is that we have been given the chance to be free now.
Okay.
So what we have to do is we have to choose to ascend up into what we are. We're fourth dimensional creatures that were thrust down into the third dimension. So we were fourth dimensional creatures thinking we were third dimensional creatures. So we're living in the third dimension, and we're actually ascending from the third to the fifth. And what it is it's a consciousness shift.
Oh, okay, right.
So you're not actually shifting from the third to the fifth dimension. It's all consciousness shifting.
Right.
It's not like a physical shift. So in the third dimension, we think that's why it's so hard for us to wake everybody up, because they still think like creatures in a way.
Right.
And it's very, very easy to hypnotize a human in some ways like that once you get them hypnotized. And then it's hard to break it. But if you can break it, then you can, and you start being aware of the fourth dimension, which is your time and love. You can kind of get a glimpse, and you can kind of push yourself into the fifth dimension. And what that is that's where you create your own reality. So if you look at the world like a puzzle from a bird's eye view, and
Right.
each puzzle piece is actually interchangeable. So if one puzzle piece isn't working, like say the woman that you're with, well, you don't have to change the puzzle. You can get rid of that puzzle piece and put it back in if you're looking at it correctly, and you can still get the same effects that you're looking for. But it's all about creating your own quantum reality and being aware that you are the creator of your existence. You are not a slave to it. You are the one making it. So rather than being the slave, you are now the creator. And that's what we were being held back from. We weren't being allowed to ascend into that. And then they were going to take our home away from us based on the work that they were doing. And there was nothing that we could do about it. And so basically the universe itself had pity on us, but it had to cleanse the earth of all of everything that was here. And it had to wipe everything away from us. And we had to start over from scratch. And it wasn't even our fault, but it was our fault. And we had no choice. So we had to go through all of this. And that's why it seems like we're stuck here with nothing, because the Galactic Federation of Planets has been in charge of our system, and they've been keeping every other race and every other alien thing away from us, because nobody's allowed to come around us. There's been starship fights in our solar system that we don't even know about, that have been happening on the other side of the asteroid belts.
So now,
if you want to believe all that stuff is true.
Well, here'd be a question. Well, and if people exist for love and for ascending to a higher consciousness and treating the planet with respect in different ways, then we don't need leaders, do we?
No, and that's the point that we're trying to get to, where we can get to. And what's going to happen is we're going through this ascension process. And those of us that can make it through, we're going to stay here and we're going to make it through. But anybody that can't, unfortunately, and we can't stop this, is going to be put into another third dimensional existence somewhere else, not here.
Interesting.
How that happens, I don't know. But the obvious thing that is, and you can't deny this, is the people that have ascended and see this can't exist with the people who don't anymore. Because it's two different mentalities. Because you got people that want to help, like me and you, who, you know, at times we can show we're fed up and we're sick of it, and we can be quite irate about it.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, it's all out of love.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not jealous.
No,
People
and we,
getting the vaccine.
And we have no hate
or
malice towards them.
Even the super wealthy. I'm not
But
really jealous of them.
But
I don't
those
want
people,
that life.
But those people hate us.
Yeah.
And that's why I say life is so simple, because the only reason to existence is something has to exist. And the only way for you to get as free as we are is in some way, shape, or form understanding that type of concept. Whether it even be like as simple as nothing else matters. Nothing matters because everything matters. It's all relative. So
Positive and negative, yeah.
to your point, yes, there are all kinds of points and purposes to life, because in order for existence to be exciting, there has to be something to do. And you have to want to do something, and you have to progress, and you have to feel good while you're doing it. But in order to be free, you have to realize that, oh, the only point to this is actually to exist, because something has to. And it's that simple.
Yeah.
There's no grand plan other than what we make of the quantum existence that we get. And the further up the evolutionary chain into other dimensions that we get with our consciousness, the closer and closer we get to pure existence, which is just pure existence. And humans are on that precipice where we're going to get to start seeing those realms and experiencing that. But we have to get through this programming that we have to be slaves.
Yeah.
And this is the great test, the last test that they throw at us. And that's why it happened in 2020.
Oh, what's that? What do you mean? Why did it happen?
2020 vision.
Oh,
the Great Awakening.
Yeah.
It's all numerology.
Yeah.
I can't remember how it goes. Fuck. I'm screwing it up. Millionaires pay attention to the stock market or something, or no. And then billionaires pay attention to the stars.
Yeah.
Or the numbers or something like that, numerology. I'll listen, I'll go back and I'll find it.
Yeah.
I'm screwing it up completely right now, but.
Well, interesting. I thought I was going to write a song, but it was more fun to just talk about all this cool stuff.
Well, we got a good conversation out of that, and it just happened.
Yeah, kind of went a little off into the wilds, but
we went
complete. I like the wilds.
We went complete tinfoil there.
Yeah,
we didn't even pull out any. The Princess Di might not be.
Well, that's it. That's true.
Right, that's about as crazy as you can get.
Well, that's the fun. That's the fun part. That's the whole part. Whole fun. Well, I gotta get going here, mostly because I'm yawning. I'm tired.
Well, it's 10:30 now.
Yeah.
We've been here for a couple hours.
Yeah, and I got a lot to think about. Just not just here, but all kinds of different stuff. And there's a lot going on in the world, and
gotta keep your toes on. You gotta keep your head up, and because man, it's coming. It's coming here now. And
it's on. Yeah.
Like it's imminent now, and people are going to have to decide if they're going to allow their friends that aren't vaccinated to go through this bullshit, because at the end of the day, it's the vaccinated people who are giving in that are going to have to stop it, because they're not listening to us anymore, and they're not going to listen to us until it comes knocking on their door.
Yeah.
Because we've been screaming our heads off for fucking years now.
Yeah.
Years.
Well, there's the sad part is it's almost ironic. You take this drug. That's what it is. It's not a vaccine. It's a drug. Take this drug.
Gene therapy.
Take this drug, and it might help.
It might lessen your symptoms.
Might. It might not.
Might also kill you.
It might do that too.
We don't know.
And it might last a while, it might not. But if you keep taking it, you might be more protected.
But you might not.
You might not. But keep taking it, and just keep taking it, and then you'll be able to do some stuff. But not other stuff. And it might not guarantee that it'll be able to let you do that stuff. And that's it. So you've got this false sense of security, even within the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
It's no guarantees and nothing. So they think you think, okay, if you get this, you're protected, which you're not, but you think you are. But then also, well, if we take these other people who aren't protected, who aren't safe, who are a danger to you now,
But
not for
how?
themselves. No, but that's the logic, right? That's, and if they can't pay the money, well, we're going to lock them away. So, for example, if you don't have $5,000, well, you got to get locked away. But if you paid the $5,000, you wouldn't have to be locked up. So the money, if you got lots of money, then you'll be safe from them. That is what that message says.
Yeah.
Right? If you got lots and lots of money, you can pay your way out.
You can keep buying your way out.
Yeah. So the thing is, then, how long, A, if you got lots of money, you'll be safe. Or B, if this thing you took doesn't work just once, if you have taken this thing, have not made that mental leap yet, or if they had, they will not admit it to themselves. And I don't want to speak for them because I can't say that. Maybe a lot of them have made that leap. And with some friends I've been talking to, often...
Well, they're making it more and more now.
Well, often one of the things that will come up is that they view us as dirty. They view us as all this sort of stuff. And some of them do. Some people are just not that intelligent. But the majority just can't seem to think. The majority, I think, from what I can tell, just can't seem to understand why we don't feel protected like they do. And I think that's more, certainly in Canada, I think the majority of people who got vaccinated look at folks like us who don't want it. And they don't see us as malicious. And most of them don't see us as a threat. There's the odd one who doesn't. And I know one or two who do. But most of them are just, yeah, but why don't you just, then you'll be able, like my one friend, he's like, man, you won't be able to go to restaurants and stuff. And I was like, well, yeah, that's fine. I won't go to restaurants. Well, you won't be able to travel. I'm like, yeah, okay, I won't travel. Fine. I'm not worried about it. Like, that's fine. I'll do other stuff. I can't be coerced. Like, you're trying to bait me and I won't take the bait. So there's that one view, right? So he's not worried that I'm going to get sick and die. He's just like, man, you're not going to be able to do anything. It's like, yeah, I know. Realizing he's not going to be able to do anything. That's common. Because if he...
You think the Germans in World War II were allowed to do anything?
Because what he doesn't realize, what's happened in Australia, and it's already happened very quickly. If I get in this camp and I test negative, who's to say they're going to go, oh, do you know Chris? Yeah. Well, you're going to have to go. Pay $5,000 or you're going to have to go in that camp. Yeah, but I tested negative. Yeah, well, you got to go. You know him. Can't take the chance or pay $5,000. That's there. There's that leap. And they'll say, no. Well, I remember last year when I said they're building camps. People are going to get quarantined. No. And there they are. So they haven't, a lot of folks, I think more of them have the leap. They just don't, it's a 1 degree of separation away that they just don't want to admit that they're next because it's terrifying.
They're admitting something's wrong.
But
they can't. But they're still blocking out what it is that's wrong, and they're blindly just go. I see it all the time.
Yeah, because the vaccine passport doesn't protect you from COVID. It protects you from the COVID police.
Yeah,
that's all it does. And you know what? I'm going to start describing that to everyone I know in those exact terms.
Yeah.
The passport does not protect you from COVID. It protects you from the COVID police.
Yeah.
So just make sure you're aware of that that's what you've got on your phone. That's what that piece of paper is. That says I'm a collaborator and I'm not a threat. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean you're safe. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you don't have a virus.
It means that you will listen to what the government tells
That's
you to do.
all it means.
That's all it means.
That's your yellow star.
Yeah, that's exactly, and that's what people aren't see. It's like what I wrote on. It was a comment that I wrote, and this person she wrote a comment, and I can't remember what exactly it was. My response was, it's not about what they're doing now. It's what
Right.
they're preparing us for in the future.
Yep. In
So
the near future too.
yeah, and this is what it is. It's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yep.
You can, yeah,
Yep.
you're not going to die, but you're slowly dying, and you don't know why. And that's what these people are. They're like they're finally going like, this is stupid. Like, why are we doing?
Yep.
But they're still like, but I got to do what's going on. I got to do what I got to do because I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
But it's like, come on, like, pick up your history book and learn this. And I figured it out was why they taught us what happened in World
Right.
War II, but they cleverly, when they were teaching us history in high school, never told us how they did
it's
it.
never
And
included.
even in university, I'll bet you they don't tell them how it was done.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't until years later, after I was 10 years in the military, and I had to dig through a whole bunch of different things on the internet in order to find out how they did it.
Well, you know something interesting too. Some folks will say you gotta stop comparing this to the Jewish Holocaust and the Nazi Germany. You'd say, okay, shall we compare it to the French Resistance? Perhaps we should compare it to the Dutch Resistance.
How about Iran?
Would you prefer? Right.
Iran is a perfect example because Iran used to be free, just like us in the United States.
Ask anyone of the Baha'i faith over here who had to leave Iran.
And the first thing, what was the first thing they did to the people in Iran? Put masks on their face.
Right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they may even did a virus scare. But the first thing they did was put masks on their face, which led the way for Sharia law. Was it Sharia or the other one? What are those Muslim fucking laws? And then eventually they masked all the women, and that's why they keep all the women shut, and they keep them all masked in the Muslim face, because they're the creative ones. They're the ones with all the ideas, and they're the ones that have to be fucking subdued, or else they're going to be like, well, why are we fucking doing this?
Yeah, and you know one thing, if you know any Arab ladies, you know the expression "mama bear."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they personify it. Some cool chicks, man.
Yeah,
I know some badass Arab ladies. Yeah,
but that was the first step in Iran. And what was the first thing they did to us? Put masks on our face.
Yeah.
They scared us with the flu and put masks on our face. Why? Because mask is a symbolism of you can't talk back, you listen, don't speak. Plus all the carbon dioxide is cutting off all the oxygen to your brain, so you're not thinking.
So maybe one of the things kind of getting close to close here is they'll say you can't compare it to World War II and the Nazis, and you don't have the troopers in the streets. Well, we do have the brown shirts.
They're here now.
We definitely have that. But it's a new time and it's a new age. And we're not talking about just Germany. We're talking about the world.
Yeah.
And it's the corporate. It's not one nation, a little fascist nation. It's not a government, a fascist government movement incorporating the corporations, although fascism really is part of corporations. It's the same corporations, but it's a corporate takeover of all the governments.
Which are all corporations.
Right.
Which are all defunct now.
But those corporations have been amalgamated, are being, just like what corporations do, they amalgamate. So we've got these corporations amalgamating because they want compliant consumers who will only buy from them. They don't want individual folks. They don't want individuality. And that's why you see a lot of these states where a lot of gun manufacturers are who aren't taking it. But where I'm going with this is that, and I'll kind of shorten it up, since it's death by 1,000 cuts, which it clearly is, well, you can heal those cuts.
Mm-hmm.
And you can repeal it. And it may take a slow process to fix it. We may even be seeing it right now.
I'm going to end on a positive
But,
note.
yeah, that's where I'm going with it, right? Yeah.
So play off of what you're saying. Just remember one thing. We still don't know if Washington, D.C. itself is still cordoned off with fences. Did they take those fences down yet?
Around the Capitol building, you mean?
And the White House.
I don't know. I've never been.
All of DC last year was fenced off because DC itself
Yeah.
is actually a foreign state.
Oh, like the City of London sort of deal? Oh, interesting.
So the part where the Capitol building is, all the monuments and everything, all of that area is actually its own country.
Ah,
and it was
interesting.
cordoned off last year.
Okay.
Actually, it was cordoned off for the inauguration.
Wow.
And there was all kinds of things going on. And it actually came out, too, that Joe Biden has never actually been in the White House, and he's been pretending to be. That's
Well,
actually
every
on
time
YouTube
you see the
too.
speeches, it's in that studio room. Yeah.
So what you're saying, all the cuts could be healed. Maybe what we're seeing is the healing of those cuts, but they still have to cut us with them because it's the only way to wake the humans up.
Yeah. Interesting.
So yes, we may get locked down. We may get thrown into these things and threatened with all these things, and maybe all this stuff is going to happen. But maybe it's just happening so that we'll all wake up, and then so they can tell us all the truth.
Yeah, maybe. Or since it is a
or we're
corporate,
fucked.
I mean, there's the depopulation agenda, which is they do, Bill Gates has talked about that for sure.
Well, it's written on the Georgia Guidestones.
Yeah, exactly. And they've been talking about that for years. But it's all bullshit because it's the only problem with the corporation. The minute you take them out, people have to provide food for themselves. Like, is New Brunswick overpopulated? Well, no. If you get rid of these corporate farms, there's more than enough. We don't produce any food here. So that argument is all bullshit.
Yeah.
And, there's just, yeah. Like the Philippines. Yeah. Huge population. Crazy. Yeah. Well, if the Filipinos actually owned all those coconut farms and all that stuff and put them down and just supplied their own food, probably wouldn't have that. There'd be plenty of
lots of problems would get solved.
And there's one thing, if you know any Filipinos, they don't fuck around. They know how to work. Some good, cool people with work ethic that would make half the planet just shudder in fear. They work so hard.
I'm pretty sure the only
work culture.
The only country that's overpopulated that can't do anything about it is China.
Yeah, and even that, there's a lot of wilderness in China, man.
Yeah, and they could also move out of China too.
Interesting about China, almost the Chinese people in China, and a lot here too, they like their fresh food.
Yeah,
that's why the whole wet market thing works so well, because there's so many wet markets. People get up early, they cook the food, they like fresh food. Half the restaurants in the country, it's from a garden out back. Like, they like their food fresh. They know how to farm. They know how to do all that stuff. And man, won't take, there's a different generation, but if Chinese people weren't forced into those cities and could have a bit of the land back, they'll be fine.
Oh yeah,
they know how to farm. Now a lot of it's polluted, but hey, even that you can reverse that stuff.
You can reverse anything. Like, look at all the pollution that got reversed just in 2 weeks over top of India.
That's why I find sometimes
2 weeks.
I try not to hold. I don't see Xi Jinping and the CCP as a positive force. I see them as a boot pushing down on one of the finest cultures in the world.
That is 100% true. And I believe that in our lifetime, we are going to see the liberation of that culture.
Oh, that would be...
Because that is the oldest culture.
To see China free and be able to spread their wings and be themselves. Like, look how much they've done already.
Fun fact.
Oh, my God.
China is the only country or the only area of the world that hasn't been underwater.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Something I've heard. Now, I'm not 100% sure on that.
And there's some cool pyramids over there.
Oh, and all the hidden... Oh. Did you know about that hidden pyramid in Bosnia?
That's an interesting one.
The one that's supposed to be bigger than the Great Pyramid?
Yeah.
It's actually a mountain.
Yeah.
And I've actually also heard that the pyramids in Egypt are actually on mountains.
Wow.
So if we were to take all that sand away, it would actually probably be like mountains and shit.
Interesting. I've heard they're on aquifers, and that's why.
Well, aquifers as well. But if you think about it too, it makes
Yeah.
sense because all of the pyramids in Central America are all in mountain ranges.
That's true.
So it
Yeah.
makes sense that the pyramids in Giza are on a mountain range
Yeah, could be.
because it's also called the Giza Plateau,
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Interesting.
And it's already been proven that that used to be all forest. Every 5,000 years or so, it switches. Takes about 100 years, but it switches from desert to forest.
Wow.
And it all used to be underwater too as well.
Well, we're going to have some guests next week, one, possibly two.
Oh, sweet.
And I'm curious to see what they have to say. But if they don't, I have a new hobby.
What's your hobby?
Tartaria and the mud flood.
Oh,
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
do I have to look that up or something?
You can if you want, or I'll talk about it, or I'm going to look up some stuff. And
Or I'll let you
it's
do
an
it.
interesting little
I'll let you-
subject. I'm still new to it. It's kind of cool, but it's, yeah.
Maybe next time too, we'll actually do
Yeah.
what we were supposed to do and learn about a little bit of a slide guitar.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's play one before we go.
All right. Well, let's
I got to write a song on the title, Drinking and Drugging Turned into Thinking and Loving.
Well, how about you do that while I go outside and take a quick leak, and I'll be listening to that too.
One of the best slide, you can play it over standard, but a lot of people like open tuning. I like open G. But I don't necessarily, well, yeah, I'm going to go full open G. Why not? So you drop your A to G and your E to D, sorry. I haven't done the full tuning in a while. And your high E to D as well. So your top 5 strings is a G chord with a fifth on the bottom, the D. This is going to require finger picks. I don't think I ever played slide with my finger picks since I started playing them. Let's see what happens. I spent many a long year in that bed. Now I found myself here. To my drinking and my drugging, into thinking and loving. And I was just a young man, just trying to do my living, man. Couldn't find my place, looking around for a friendly face. Time my drinking and my lugging, drinking and a jugging, well, I back to thinking and a loving.
Whoa.
So try and get something there.
I think next week you're gonna start learning how to do that.
Oh, good fun, man. Good fun.
Well, I need to learn a little bit more, and I'm not gonna lie, listening to the Rogan podcast with Ted Nugent.
I'm halfway through. He's
Oh.
great. He's played a lot of good guitar. He's got a interesting guy.
Oh yeah, I'm all wanting to learn all new styles and stuff like that, and I've always properly learned how to slide, and never really learned. So
Oh man, I'll show you. It's easy.
Well,
It's
then-
easy.
we'll do a little bit more music stuff next week. Hopefully, we'll have some guests to sit down and talk to, and go through some. It'll be fun.
I should write something about the mud flood.
Do it.
That'd be fun. For my buddy Mike, you know what I'm talking about. You hit me to it. I heard a bit about it, but he's like, hit me. And now I'm like, oh yeah.
Which reminds me, we'll make sure we share all of this everywhere. I'll get you lined up so you can subscribe to Morningstar and share that as well. And
Cool.
we'll start sharing everything around. Hopefully, we'll get people actually watching eventually. All right. Metal Dad out. Have a good night, everybody.
Turbo on the servo.
Oh,
I got a song. Actually, you know what? I will have that one ready. I was promised that
Turbo
song.
on the servo.
Well, that was the joke. Was like they called me Turbo, and then we all got laid off. Turbo was on the servo.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I'm yawning too.
Yeah.
It's about that time. All right.
Indeed.
Night, everybody.
Peace.